It's a lovely full circle, actually. This was one of the things that I talked about with Chamber Music New Zealand right up front, is that my very first string quartet was Orfedo, and that was my composer in residence with Chamber Music New Zealand when I was 25, which was a really long time. It was 20 years ago. And it was a very exciting thing for me because it was my first big professional, it was certainly my first residency, but it was certainly, you know, my first big professional engagement that really established me to myself, at the very least, as a composer. So it's really exciting 20 years later, and having written 2 or 3 string quartets in the meantime, to be writing one for a different ensemble that I don't know. And I really love writing for string quartet. The piece was a commission from Chamber Music New Zealand, specifically for the Goldner Quartet, which is Australia's premier string quartet. Really amazing players, and it's always very exciting to get a commission for such incredible players. It's always slightly daunting, but it's very exciting. And I guess one of the first ideas that was given to me for the commission was that Wellington and Sydney are sister cities. Something that none of us really knew, and we had to do a little bit of research, and it was quite difficult to find information, but in fact they are, which was nice. It was nice to have the project start from that point. I hadn't met any of the quartet except for Dean Olding, who's one of the violinists, and he's amazing. I wrote the violin test piece for the Michael Hill International Violin Competition a few years ago, and he was one of the judges, and he was fantastic because he was sort of in charge of the judges, and also made it very clear to me that he was happy to help with a solo violin piece that had to be a test piece, you know, it had to be a real violin piece. So he helped me with that and said, no, make it harder, make it higher, make it faster, you know. I was like, sure, great. So in fact, this commission was sort of starting a new relationship with a new ensemble. I haven't written for very many Australian ensembles. It's something that always puzzles me that we're not closer to each other. You know, commissions don't go across the Tasman that often, and it is wonderful when they do. So it was starting a new relationship with a new ensemble, and also continuing the friendship that I have with Dean in that musical colleague sort of way. The initial brief for the work, as I said, you know, there was that whole aspect of the sister city relationship of Sydney and Wellington, and it's in fact the 21st anniversary of that sister city relationship, which is pretty amazing. So there was a definite desire for this piece to be a celebration of that, and so I sort of started out my ideas in this sort of happy, celebratory, joyful mood. And it just didn't go that way. It just would not go that way, no matter how hard I tried. So it is quite a dark piece. It's a very rhythmic piece. It's a very virtuosic piece, which is, again, you know, that is a celebration of the quartet it's written for, because I was thinking, well, I can write some pretty hard stuff, and they do a lot of contemporary music, so they won't be terrified of it. And I felt very safe in the knowledge that they would be able to play what I wrote. But then, of course, I just needed to, I also have to find a title. That's really difficult. And then all of a sudden it occurred to me that there is this one thing that sits between us as sister cities, this one wall, and it's not a political wall, it's not an emotional wall, it's the Tasman Sea. And the Tasman Sea is a bit of a barrier. You know, it's very hard to get across, and even some plane trips are pretty scary at times. And I thought, well, I quite like that analogy, that's the only thing sitting between us. And as that sort of panned out, the music did actually start fitting that sort of really choppy, terrifying nature of that particular stretch of sea. And I do like writing music about the sea as well. It's something that I've done a lot because I'm usually quite near it when I'm writing. Well, apparently there are no possible page turns in the viola part, so I'm going to have a wee look at that. You know, you can't get it to turn it with your foot or anything, so But they said once they've really had a good go at it, they'll get back in contact with me. So I'm really looking forward to that. That'll be exciting. Because then the collaboration, whatever collaboration is possible in this sort of situation. But I mean, that's what I love. I love rehearsing. I get halfway through the piece and I start looking forward to the rehearsals, because that's, for me, when the music starts. When it's dots on a page, it's not music yet, it's still an idea. And it becomes music when the very first note at the very first rehearsal gets played. And that's when it becomes a collaboration. I'm very much looking forward to hearing Death and the Maiden. That's one of the first pieces I heard when I went to music school, a very long time ago. And I don't actually think I've ever heard it live before. Of course, I'm so looking forward to hearing the Goldners playing other material other than my own, and I'm very much looking forward to hearing Piers Lane as well. He's an astonishing pianist. And Elgar, I don't know the Elgar at all. This is the program that my piece is on. But I love Elgar. So, and it's funny because my funny little jaunty piece in the middle of those two, I mean, it couldn't be more different. So it's going to be fascinating to see how it sits in there. But people will go, oh, it's Gareth, you know, that's what he does. What I really hope is that people come out going, it wasn't what I expected Gareth to write, but I still saw those elements of his personality. It's still got a lilt to it. It still sort of goes off in a funny angle and it is unpredictable. But it was just, yeah, I think it's just going to be slightly more difficult to listen to than other things I've written in that area, whatever that means. So that's what I hope. Of course, so then you get to the end and you think, well, do I do a quiet ending or do I do a big ending? And of course I did a big ending.